Welcome in, guys. This is the Daily Wolves courtside. We're bringing you a post-season kind of reaction. We got KD stuff to talk about. We got other players involved. A lot of different things on today's show. We got a couple different guests in here, I guess. One familiar face that you see all the time. That's Matt, my co-host. Sarah, who's newer, and you're going to be seeing her on a lot more. How you doing today, guys?
Doing well. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm doing just fine.
You two ready to talk some hoops or what? Should we get into it?
For sure.
Always, man. Always.
All right, cool. Well, there's a lot of different things we can get into first, but we got to start with the beginning. Before the season starts, the Karl Anthony Towns trade goes down. We all know it's one of the biggest trades that's gone down in the NBA over the past year. Kind of shocked everybody, shocked us. Looking back now at the Karl Anthony Towns trade, I got to get your guys' takes. Sarah, I'll get yours first. How do you feel about the trade now that we've, dissected it over a full year?
I think honestly, both teams got a little bit of what they needed out of it, but I also don't think that it obviously didn't fix all of the Timberwolves' problems. It definitely helped New York get a lot further than they got last year. So I don't know who won it, but I think that it worked out a little bit for each team. I mean, Julius Randle really came through the first two rounds for us in the playoffs. When he came back from injury, that's when the Timberwolves kind of skyrocketed their season. And, I mean, I can't complain.
Yeah, what would you say, Matt? And then I want to get some more inputs, but let me hear your intake too, Matt.
Yeah, right here, we got a comment right there, kind of like
what
Cole said, I understand that side, that hated besides the cap space, That's exactly where I was to start this initially. You have a tenured player like Karl Anthony Towns, who's a great basketball player, but I feel like to Minnesota, he's done a lot for the community. He's put his face out there. He's done a lot to help people who are less fortunate than he is, and just kind of average citizens too, just being a good dude.
For sure.
But basketball, just like on a basketball standpoint, initially I understood the frustration because me and you, we were both part of the frustration and the confusion. You're like, why not run it back? You made it to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 20 years, and you traded away your number 2 option, who was sometimes your number 1 option when Ant was having off nights.
Yep.
So I understand the frustration. And then you go out and you get a player like Julius Randle, who has the label that he's a playoff choker, that he's not built for the moment, all this sorts of stuff. And he just came off an injury that put him out for the remainder of the season right after All-Star break or right before All-Star break. So I understand the frustration and where it is, but pound for pound, when you go back and you look at how it affected both teams and kind of where it sets them up for the future, I would have to say that the Wolves won the trade. You go back to the Mavericks series, because like Sarah said, there was stuff that we were missing last year, and I think that was a ball dominant presence, somebody who could have been an offensive hub in Julius Randle. And in return, you also get one of the best catch and three-point shooters in the NBA, and Dante DiVincenzo. And to sweeten it up, nobody thought Detroit was going to be as good as they were this year. We somehow got the 17th overall pick too. So there's so many things that have affected the Wolves positively long-term, because we sit here now and we're able to talk about, can we trade for a Kevin Durant? Can we trade for a Darius Garland, a Trae Young? You can't do that with just a Karl Anthony Towns, because if you have Cat, then you lose Nikhil. You probably lose Jaden. You lose Nas, something like that. But now we're talking, we still have that backup guard. We have Dante, who also is on one of the best contracts in the league. We have a young guard and Rob. Terrence Shannon can play a little bit of 2. I'd like to bet my money on. So it opens all these doors of possibilities that I don't think would have been there if we just kept and ran it back with Karl Anthony Towns, because inevitably he was going to have to be traded. He's due to make $60 million in 3 seasons. And I love Cat, but Cat's not a $60 million player. I couldn't justify paying Karl Anthony Towns that much. So all in all, I think, like Sarah said, positives for the Wolves, positives for the Knicks. But all in all, I think it sets the Wolves up better for the future and gives them more ammo to become a championship team. So I think that the Wolves did end up winning the trade.
I like that, man. I think what you said too about the Detroit pick, nobody thought it was going to convey and be, pick 17 in the draft this year. It's incredible how good Detroit was. That is a huge win for the Timberwolves, getting that pick. it opens up, like you said, all this flexibility. That's probably like the key thing I took away from everything you just said. Like what I want people to focus on is that pick was so awesome to get along with the on you mentioned with Dante. Obviously Dante struggled in the past, which we both saw that, but we believe in Dante here. We believe on the show that he can be an awesome player. There's a huge upside on a contract like that. You're right. It's one of the best contracts in the entire league. And that's an attractable contract in the future in case you do want to move that as well or figure something else out. But just getting Dante in the trade, getting that Detroit pick was awesome. And then you have Randall, which is going to be a salary that you can play around with. And that's a salary that's enough money in that $30 million range that you can move. And that's something you need if you're going to attach any picks. No, I like that. Overall, are you giving it a win or a loss, Sarah, like overall for this season?
I'm giving it a win, honestly, to do such a blockbuster trade, like, what was it, 3 days before training camp?
Yep.
And for us to make it back to the Western Conference Finals is just absolutely unheard of. Like, when the season first started, nobody was, I mean, I just remember all the hate on, like, Twitter about Julius Randle, about the fit, all of that. So, and I think it did take a little bit of time for him and Dante to kind of, mesh with the team and get used to playing, Timberwolves style basketball. But once that happened and once Julius came back from injury, everything started clicking, right? So, like, we started firing on all cylinders right when it mattered, right at the end of the season. We were on the cusp of maybe not even making it into the play-in.
Yep.
He came through when we really needed him, and like you guys said, it opened up cap space. It set us up for the future. So, I mean, in a rebuild year to make it to the Western Conference Finals, we won. I'm sorry. Like, we had a great season, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Like, you literally just took everything I was going to say and nailed it right on the head right there. But literally, just like she said, you blow up your team, not blow it up, but you lose a core player in Kyle Anderson. You lose J-Mac, who played minutes at the beginning of the season, and you lose your number 2 option. To go from that to being called, oh, what were the Wolves doing? They're a laughing stock once again. Tim Connolly doesn't know what he's doing, to going back to the Western Conference Finals and being the best, if not the second best team in basketball for a majority of the second half of the season. There's just no way you can't draw it back to a win, because this team's expectation, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but I think at the beginning of the year, Vegas had the Wolves wins at like 42.5.
Yep.
Something in that range. And what did we finish with? Like 50, something like that. Yeah, either way, we exceed expectations just in that standpoint alone. We saw Terrence Shannon develop. We saw Jaden McDaniels develop his offensive game, and it looks like he's worth the contract now, because that was a discussion in the beginning of the season is, did we overpay Jaden? The offense hasn't came around, and then Julius Dante go down. Jaden is that guy. It's just, how do we involve him? Anthony Edwards became the best shooter in the NBA. That I did not expect.
Yeah,
but that was a joy to witness. So there's just so many positive takeaways that you can take away from the season. It's obviously not great. You don't want to end up falling 3 games short. The way game 4 ended too, the Wolves played borderline a perfect game of basketball aside from turnovers. And sometimes other teams are just better. And that's what the Western Conference Finals was. They were ready. They had better talent, top to bottom. Role players played better. Shea was the best player in the series. So, yeah, W season for the Wolves.
Okay, guys. So then I got to get your inputs now on you. Speaking of role players, there's a couple role players that are going to be potentially going to other places. Maybe they're in Minnesota. Maybe they can't retain them. We're talking about guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid, Julius Randle with the team option. Was that Nickeil Alexander-Walker's last game? Let's get the predictions for you guys. Was it Nikhil's last game, Matt?
Nope. Absolutely not.
Okay. What about you, Sarah?
My heart wants to say no, but like my mind is saying yes, especially if we're going to go after guys like KD and like Darius Garland. We have to be able to give up some of those core bench like role players.
Yeah.
And I love Na, but I would rather give up Na than Naz Reid.
That's actually funny. I'm because I'm on the complete other side of that. Now, everybody watching, don't flame me. I love Naz Reid. Let me make that very clear. I love Naz Reid. But my thing with Naz Reid is he is going to win you a game, or he's going to be the reason that you can't go on a run, and he shoots you out of a game. And I feel like we saw that in the playoffs, you know? And the other concern that I have with Naz Reid is I don't want to okay, I guess I am just going to disrespect him flat out, but he's a Jokic level on-ball defender. I'm sorry, but Naz Reid is a cone. That's just what it is. Like, yes, my roommate's a Thunder fan nodding over there. Yeah, he is. There should be no reason that Naz Reid should be getting he shouldn't be getting bodied by a string bean and Chet Holmgren. He shouldn't be getting blown by centers and power forwards. He's a guard who's quick on his, or he's a big guard who's quick on his feet. He has the handle. So like it doesn't make sense to me. And I can't justify paying a bench player anything over $20 million if they're going to be that inconsistent. Say you're going to come out and you're going to shoot 40 to 47% from the field, and you're going to consistently give me 36 to 39% from three. And it can't be for, I'm going to shoot 60% from three for 2 months, but then the next 2 months, I'm going to shoot 20% from three. Like it can't be that, because the highs are so high. Like he is a starting caliber player, looks like a top 5 possible power forward center in the league when he's on, but his lows, man, like I get
what you're saying, dude.
I can't. So that's kind of where my thing is. Okay.
Whose ceiling do you think is higher though, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's or Naz Reid? Like if Naz fixes his inconsistency,
that's fair.
Oh, then 100% Naz.
Yeah, it's Naz.
And that's also where I'm torn, because that was the thing with Dante. We were talking about this, and like right before he exploded in game 4, it's why was Finch riding it out with Dante? Why is there no Terrence Shannon? Because like you said, he has the upside to go for 30 and give you 10 boards. It's just, if we can get through to Naz Reid, that it's like, this can't be you're good for 2 months, you're mediocre to average for a month. Like if that can change itself, give Naz $20 million. I don't care, but it's just, we're at 3 years in a row now where the defense has been concerning. I thought the help defense, and I think he's a great help defender. I think he's great when he kind of can float like Rudy can, but it's the on ball. It's just too inconsistent. He's not going to be able to stay in front of the Chet Holmgrens, the LeBron James, if you get switched onto him, the Kevin Durant's of the world. Like, that's just my big worry. We saw him get hunted all playoffs, and I'm rambling now, but that's where I'm at with it.
If Naz Reid's commanding like $30 million in the market, which it'll be around there, it'll be like 30 to 35 million is probably going to be in his market. That just seems like way too much to pay for a guy. If you were, let's say the Wolves keep Randall and Naz and they move on from Nickeil, that just seems like such a high price to pay somebody for a backup big. Like you're paying a backup big 30 million. Like that's kind of where like I draw the line, where I have an issue too. The inconsistencies, they are there with Naz Reid. The ceiling, like you said, it's there with Naz Reid. I don't know what Minnesota is doing internally. Naz's comments were interesting too in the post game, where he kind of seemed like you could just tell he was not really about returning for that 6 man again. He truly wants to be a starter, and he views himself as a starter, right?
And I don't know if you guys did see too those screenshots and videos that got leaked. I'm not gonna read too in depth.
Yeah, those are wild.
But I don't see many NBA players go out and talking about, I'm gonna go make 100 M's. You're sorry. So that's also something to keep in the back of your mind.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't really know what direction they're gonna go, but we love Naz in the state of Minnesota, and it's just one of those things you have to tackle. It's almost like if Minnesota chooses Randall and Naz, I almost just don't see it like both of them being back. I just, at this rate, it just almost seems like it's got to be one or the other, and so you're choosing between one of the two, because to pay both of them that kind of money that's just crazy, really, man. You can't. It's just, to me, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
What about let's go into if they do go on like the trade route, guys. Everybody in here is probably watching. They want to know if the Wolves are gonna go after anybody. Kevin Durant, he's came up again. Why wouldn't he come up again? He keeps coming into our lives, man. They're floating things out. Brian Windhorst on ESPN reported it the other day. I posted about it. Everybody saw it. There was other reports from like the Hoops Collective putting it out. KD to the Timberwolves. That's real talk. They would never put that out if it wasn't real. It wasn't just the trade deadline stuff. Now it's being floated out that the Timberwolves are expected to pursue him this offseason. That's to be expected. You got to do your diligence, right? But it just feels like there's just these constant things, man. And those aren't just floated about again. They're told by somebody's camp, hey, push this, put it out. Or like, you can say this nationally and put it out. Once Brian Windhorst says it, that's when I know this is like legitly gaining, some steam here. How would you feel, Sarah, if Kevin Durant was to come to Minnesota, and if he was to come here, what aren't you willing to give up no matter what for Kevin Durant?
I mean, I've loved Kevin Durant forever. Like, he's one of my favorite players. When I was in high school, I used to hoop in KDs. So, like, those are, I would love to have him here, but I absolutely would not be willing to give up, like, a Jaden McDaniels for him. Because Jaden McDaniels is just starting to gain, like, the confidence offensively. He had such a huge jump offensively this year. He's one of our best defenders after Rudy, and arguably sometimes better than Rudy. Rudy was kind of a non-factor in that series against OKC on both ends of the floor, while we had Jaden locking down SGA, or trying to lock down SGA. But yeah, I wouldn't be willing to give up Jaden McDaniels, but if we can make something shake like outside of that, I think having that veteran experience and just like another kind of scoring option that you can't, double Ant every time down the floor, like that's going to open us up so much. It's going to open Ant up so much. It's going to just change kind of the whole flow of what we do on offense. And then KD defensively is just a big presence anyway. He's long, he's quick.
Yep.
So
yeah, Kevin Durant, man. I could ramble about this for hours. I'll try to keep it short. No promises. But we've talked about this a bunch. And the one thing that needs to happen before anything is Kevin Durant needs to come out and be like, I want to go play for Minnesota. I want to play with Anthony Edwards.
Yep.
Because if that doesn't happen, teams like Houston, teams like Dallas, those are the two teams that initially come to mind. They have more ammo. They have more young players to trade for a Kevin Durant. They have more picks. The thing with KD is, like you said, Sarah, it's going to take so much pressure off Anthony Edwards because you're not going to be able to double him. You have KD be a pass away from Ant at all times. Now, I know that's not necessarily practical, but in a perfect world, it's a quick swing and one more to Kevin Durant, pump shot or a pump fake. The whole floor is wide open once again. And you have one killer here and you have one right here. So I think that it obviously takes Minnesota's offensive game to a whole new level, but it's just, it's the numbers, just everything has to align perfectly. And if it were to align perfectly, I'm on board with it. I would love to have Kevin Durant in the Timberwolves uniform. We would do numbers. We would see almost like a new era of Minnesota basketball, if you must. Like, we haven't had like the two stars at the same time. Like, we've had Anthony Edwards. We've had Cat, who is, like an all-star, but he wasn't like that guy. We've had KG, and we've had like Latrell Sprewell and like an aging Sam Cassell. Yeah. So to have like two guys, it'd be great for the sport. It'd be great for the team. It'd be great for the fans. But it's just, what are you willing to give up? What's worth willing to give up? Because something that I've been on, if you're the Suns, you're the most expensive team in basketball. Bradley Beal screwed you over completely by not removing his no trade clause. So if you're the Suns, you're looking for draft picks, and the Wolves don't have a ton of those to play with. So what's the other thing you're going to look for? Young players that have a bunch of upside. And we have a lot of those. So with that being said, if we want Kevin Durant, it's going to have to be a Julius Randle or a sign and trade with Naz Reid when we extend him. Talk to Phoenix, be like, what's in the ballpark? You guys willing? And then I think it's going to have to be a Rob Dillingham or a Terrence Shannon. I think that's the only way it happens. I think if you're the Phoenix Suns, the smart thing to do would be we can make this happen, but we need Rob Dillingham or Terrence Shannon. If you're not going to give it to us, we can just kiss this goodbye and we can forget it. So I think if you're the Suns, you're going to ask for one of those guys too. So, and then with that being said, the numbers are already pretty close. Julius Randle's going to make $30 million. The Wolves only need to send out $41 to $43 million with how the second apron and the new CBA works. The receiving team only can take on, or the sending away team can send away receiving, I had it right the first time, can take back up to 125% of what the contract would be. So that means that the Wolves don't have to match the full $52 million of Kevin Durant's salary, or however much it is. It will only have to be 41 to 43. So with Julius, there's 30. Rob or Terrence, they're a first round pick. That's another 4 to whatever million.
I think Rob's like 8.
Something like that, 8, something like that. But then you throw in a Josh Minot or a Leonard Miller, some seconds, which are about $1 million, $500,000 a piece, and then a first. And I think that does get you to the magic number that is Kevin Durant, And I'll reiterate this. The only way this happens is if Kevin Durant says, I want to come to Minnesota. And the big thing too for the Wolves is that I always forget to mention this for some reason, which is like the most important thing too. If you're the Wolves and Kevin Durant does say that, you can lowball the Phoenix Suns. You give them the bare minimum because there's no reason to give up more than you need to. Because you look at Kevin Durant, he goes where he wants. So if you're Minnesota, then you trade the bare minimum, you trade the $41 million, and you kind of get off who you want to. So that's my big thing is can Phoenix and can Minnesota find an even point with players that they're willing to part with, but also to the point where it's not detrimental, because like Wolves back Sack said right here, we cannot trade the farm for a 37-year-old aging Kevin Durant.
I like that, man. It's crazy to think like if KD was coming here, can you guys just imagine what the city of Minneapolis, this whole state would just, with like a name like KD, who people is, a lot of people, like you said, you hooped in KDs. There's a lot of people that's their childhood idol. Growing up, it was LeBron, KD, Steph, a different era, and you're aligning it with the next era with Anthony Edwards, Team USA, the commercials those two would probably get put into together because now they're on the same team with Sprite and Ants endorsement deals. I mean, I can just see like Adidas marketing team going crazy and KD's team with Nike pulling something. I don't know how that, obviously Adidas and Nike would have to work that out, but there might be a world where they can do business with each other out there somehow, man. And it's just crazy to think the numbers that they would sell season ticket wise, everything it would do to the market, and how many national games the Timberwolves would be on. It would be really fun. I think something that KD brings that in the playoffs you saw with the Thunder is that post-up game that you hear being talked about now with Anthony Edwards, being able to post up. And Kevin Durant's one of the best in the game. You can throw it down there, and that's something Randall really couldn't do to the extent. Like, yeah, he kind of has that turnaround post game a little bit where he fades to the free throw line, but doesn't do it all the time. It's not consistent. KD's is also a really good playmaker. So if you do throw it down, let's just say hypothetically, Kevin Durant can do numerous things. He can play make, send it around, but he can also post up anybody with his size. He's one of the elite mid-range shooters in the game. Now you have a guy who can actually shoot the mid-range, and Minnesota doesn't have anybody who can shoot the mid-range. It's something Anthony Edwards needs to get better on. But I think KD opens up so many different things. Like we talked about, guys, you cannot double team either one of them when they're on the court together. It is a different element than Julius Randle. Kevin Durant is one of the most elite deadly scorers the game has ever seen. I mean, he averaged 27 points a game this year, and the dude is like almost 40 years old, about to have a cane. So, I mean, it's just one of those things like you look forward to, and it would be really exciting. I don't know. Again, I don't think Jaden McDaniels, for people watching, Jaden McDaniels will not be in the trade. I would guarantee it. You can bookmark this. He is not going to be in the trade for Kevin Durant.
I want to say something about this too. If you're not part of the Wolves organization, like you might not understand it. The rest of the NBA world would call it crazy. But I don't think it's crazy to say that in the Timberwolves front office's eyes, that Jaden McDaniels is borderline just as untouchable as Anthony Edwards is. You guys can call me crazy, but I don't think that's necessarily too far out of the ballpark.
No, and I would, and you have to decide too, obviously internally, what you view Rob Dillingham as. They traded up with 3 firsts to go get him. It shocked everybody last year, but this year Rob doesn't really play, and he wasn't great in the G League. He really wasn't. His turnover to assist ratio wasn't great. His defense wasn't great. Obviously, he's undersized. He's coming in getting drafted at about 164 pounds. There's a lot of things that is a little bit alarming with Rob Dillingham. If you're that size and you're drafted to be an elite scorer, well, you cannot turn the ball over then. And he did that. That's why Clark played. That is why you saw Terrence Shannon Jr. play, because when they came in, they didn't do those things. They came in and they fit. They did what Finch in the front office wanted them to do. Come in, make plays, do what you're good at, stand in the corner, shoot a three. If you're Terrence, go downhill, don't turn the ball over, play defense, and don't miss your assignments. And I think Rob showed flashes of amazing things, but there was numerous things that Rob Dillingham, there was very alarming things. And that's why you saw Clark and Terrence get the nod over that. And you saw even Josh Minot get a nod at some point earlier in the season, and he couldn't consistently perform. And what happened? Minot got pulled as well. So it's just one of those things that, the Wolves are going to have to look for, guys. It's been awesome having everybody into the stream today. We're going to wrap things up here. We have a lot more talk about the Timberwolves this offseason. It's June 1st. Finally, that means it's draft month for the NBA. We're going to be covering it with everybody with the Daily Wolves here. Get you guys tuned up in the future, man. And then if there's any steam on trade talks or what the Minnesota Timberwolves could do, we got you covered. This is the Daily Wolves Courtside. Until next time, guys, go Wolves.
Go Wolves.
Wolves.